we are going to be reviewing One Piece top 20 bounties. We now have some new information in the manga, and it is up to us to decide whether we want to keep the bounty where it is, increase it, or decrease it. First off, we have Gol D here sitting at 5.5 billion berries. Obviously, he's deceased, but one thing we do know is that he was one of the critical role players in God Valley. And we also have new information where Imu was technically present in God Valley by possessing Saturn. And we're seeing that he fought a Domi reverse rocks alongside Garp, but seeing that Imu was also there, do you guys feel like Roger should be given a little bit more credit, or do you think he's good right where he is? Because in my opinion, we found out about Roger's bounty before we knew that Imu was at God Valley. Luffy, you said, isn't he the highest already? Roger is the highest known bounty, but I believe there are higher bounties that are unknown. And me personally, I think it would be Dragon. I think Dragon's gonna have the highest bounty in One Piece, but obviously we don't know what it is yet. Okay, so I'm seeing most of you guys say 6 billion for Roger. And that's because he's getting a little bit more hype off of the Imu appearance, the Domi reverse rocks. So we know Rocks also gets a power boost from there. And it's very weird because a lot of people watching the God Valley situation used it as an opportunity to slander Roger. I've seen a lot of Roger slander since the God Valley incident, but I do feel like because he was there while not only was an elder there in Saturn, but Imu was there as well, I think that Roger still should have like even a little bit more respect to kind of separate him from the pack. So I personally am cool with people saying put Gol D Roger at 6 billion. So we're gonna have Roger upgraded to a 6 billion berry bounty. Okay, so Roger 6 billion. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have Whitebeard, another legend that has passed away, but he also was at God Valley. He also clashed against Rocks and Imu, right? He was in that camp. And to me, I feel like if you're battling against Imu, you should get a little bit more, because that's a direct counter to the world government. If you even land a blow on Imu, if you say something wrong to Imu, the world government can perceive that as a threat, in my opinion. And they are the ones that are issuing the bounties to these pirates. All right, so Kostas, you said he didn't really do much in God Valley. I mean, I beg to differ. I feel like Whitebeard still was kind of critical in God Valley. I know a lot of people kind of look down on Whitebeard a little bit. Whitebeard got a little bit of slander, not as much as Roger, but the Whitebeard slander really came from him. Not in my opinion, he didn't really run from Garp, but he was trying to hurry to help Shaki in that whole situation. But people took it as him running from Garp, so I'm like, all right, whatever. But other than that, I mean, he clashed Domi reverse rocks by himself. There was a 1v1 scenario going on, and then he also was there in the fight against Imu. See, Adrian, you just said it. Drop him the 5 billion flat. He ducked the Garp fade with Kaido and Big Mom. But remember, he was looking at it from a standpoint of, we do not have time to fight Garp. We have a bigger fish to fry, essentially. That's how I saw that. He wasn't like, oh, Garp's here, I can't hang with him, because remember, later in God Valley, Whitebeard clashed Domi reverse rocks 1v1. He clashed with him and split the mountain. That's the same Domi reverse rocks that fought Garp and Roger together in a 2v1. Like, you have to give Whitebeard some love for that. Most of you guys are saying stay. There's a couple of you guys that are saying increase it to like 5.5 billion or maybe 5.2 or 5.1. But most of you guys are saying to keep Whitebeard here. So we're gonna keep Whitebeard here at 5 billion. In my opinion, I probably would have got Whitebeard up just a little bit more because, again, once you are in the fight against Imu, who is the big bad, I feel like your bounty has to increase off of that alone, right? With that newfound information. But let's move on. We have Kaido is here. Kaido is sitting at 4.6 billion berries. Here's the thing with Kaido. It's harder to judge him in the God Valley scenario because he was young. Yeah, he did throw hands. Yes, Imu was there and he was part of that legendary clash where everybody put all their haki together and stuff. But Kaido was young. So it's like, I can't really dog him too much. It seems like most of you guys are saying to push Kaido to 5 billion. Lucian, you said, yeah, Kaido did mass slavery and an underground corruption. World government doesn't really care about that. That is true, but there is something to be said about how Kaido was kind of established in the land that was lawless. The world government had no command over Wano, and Kaido was able to, you know, finesse that situation. Most of you guys are saying 5 billion, and I'm cool with that too, but it's kind of tough now because we just said to keep Whitebeard at 5 billion, right? So if we're keeping Whitebeard, there and then we're raising Kaido, it's tough for me. I feel like there still should be a little bit of separation between Kaido and Whitebeard, because if you guys are gonna say to keep Whitebeard at 5 billion, then we're setting the standard of like, all right, this is what a 5 billion bounty means. And I don't know if Kaido has had a more threatening power to the world government than Whitebeard. I don't know if I can say that, considering what Whitebeard was able to do at God Valley as well, and the level of his pirate crew. Remember, Kaido was on his way to Marineford to catch Whitebeard because Whitebeard was that ridiculous, and Whitebeard is in Kaido's top 5. So for me, I'm like, you know what? I don't know. But most of you guys are still saying keep Kaido at 5 billion, so that's what it is, because that's what I'm seeing more of. Okay, I might poll it. It might be easier if I just poll it, to be honest. So we have Kaido staying at 4.6 or Kaido to 5 billion. But yeah, I'm more of the opinion to kind of have Kaido stay at 4.6, just because we're saying Whitebeard should stay. But we put Roger at 6. So where's the lower option? Leroy, you really want to drop him? Michael Rainbow, you said it's important to remember bounties aren't a direct representation of power. Oda thinks power scaling is dumb and he doesn't play. So what I will say is I agree that bounties aren't a direct representation of power, but they do tell somewhat of the story of how threatening you are to the world government. So for instance, like, let's say we never saw like Vegapunk have a bounty, but hypothetically, like if Vegapunk were to kind of switch sides or something like that, and have enough time to be feared by the world government and have them assess his value and his threat power, I feel like Vegapunk will probably be way up there in ability, you know? And he's not a character that's really having like crazy hockey and he's like a crazy fighter, but it's his knowledge and his threat level that would be reflected in his bounty. So let's see. All right, so most of you guys said, yeah, so 67% of you guys said to have Kaido stay at 4.6. So we're gonna have Kaido staying at 4.6 and we will move on to the other bounty here. We're gonna start with Big Mom. Big Mom is sitting at, really, if we round up, it's 4.4. Realistically, it's 4.4 billion berries. Now, again, this is somebody that in God Valley, at least she threw an attack at Garp. Now, Garp was talking disrespectfully to her and said that her firepower really couldn't even cook a prime rib. He was being very, very disrespectful. But at least Charlotte Linlin threw an attack at Garp. And I do feel like if you attack one of the heroes of the Marines, that's a boost to your bounty. If you fight against Emu, or at least throw an attack against Emu, that's an increase to the bounty. Big Mom also has a lot of staying power. The whole cake territory is massive. She may have some ties to Elbath as well. I'm cool with Big Mom getting an increase, but it shouldn't be anything ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if I could get Big Mom to the 5, but Blake, you said 4.4. She never really attacked the world government and she's seen Emu. I mean, she attacked Garp. Ticklish, you're saying just 4. So you want Big Mom to stay at just 4 billion. I'm seeing 4.5 or I'm seeing 4 billion decrease to 4. There's a mixture here. So here's what I'll do. I'll run a poll. Nobody's really saying to have Big Mom stay the same as much. So I'm gonna say Big Mom, we could go 4.6, or we say Big Mom 4 billion flat. All right, let's run this poll. I knew once we got to Kaido and Big Mom, it would start getting a little shaky. All right, a minute is up. I'm going to end it and let's see. All right, 53% of you guys said to drop Big Mom down to 4 billion. So Big Mom has been dropped to 4 billion. It's a cold world. It is a very, very cold world, but you know, it's life. Big Mom's out of here. And then next up we have Shanks, red-haired Shanks. He's sitting at 4 billion. I'm seeing outrageous numbers, but I'm not mad at any of them. It looks like most people are okay with Shanks going up. It's just how far are we going to raise him? Now, here's the issue. Shanks, I feel like, obviously we can't look at God Valley, he was a baby, but what we can look at is the fact that he does have a special place over all the other Yonko, and that's the fact that he has celestial dragon blood and that he used to be, I should say, the Holy Knights. He used to be in that rank. So I feel like Shanks leaving the Holy Knights, creating his own pirate crew, being a super big powerhouse in the One Piece world today, easily. I feel like this bounty off rip is super disrespectful. If I'm a member of the world government, we don't have conversations about Shanks unless we get to 5 off rip. That's me. And then you could look at what he's done against people in the world government or the Marines. I mean, Admiral Aramaki literally didn't even see Shanks. He just felt the hockey and said, okay, I'm cool. So there's a different level of respect that Shanks commands. The fact that he went to the Marine Forward War, challenged the Blackbeard pirates plus the Marines, and they all shut it down is just, you know, to me, I feel like Shanks has to be a 5 billion minimum. And most of you guys are saying that as well. Most of you guys are saying 5, but I'm seeing a couple 5.5s and I'm seeing a couple, some people said 6 too. I'm not mad at anything, to be honest. I'm not mad at anything, but most of you guys are saying like around 5.5. But Shanks absolutely should be the highest bounty, like, of the Yonko. I feel like until we get to see Luffy clash with Emu, I feel like Shanks is that ridiculous. Yeah, Blake, you said it. Shanks played Emu. He did. But I still feel like there's room for Dragon to end up having the highest bounty, because they call him the world's most wanted man, because that's literally what he's trying to do. So there's still room for Dragon to have like the highest bounty in One Piece right now. But I feel like Shanks should easily be like top 2, top 3. The fact that there's characters over him is ridiculous, except for Dragon. Dragon's the only one I feel like you could argue right now, and possibly Loki. So for Shanks, let's go 5.5, because that's what I saw the most of. No need to run a poll. I'm cool with Shanks being at 5.5 billion berries. His level speaks for himself. All right, so now we're moving on to Blackbeard. Marshall D. Teach. He's sitting at basically 4 billion berries. And as much as we just hyped up Shanks, I feel like we also need to respect what Blackbeard has been able to accomplish as a member of the Yonko. Not only did he manage to have Kuzan join his crew, not only did he escape battle against one of the Seraphim and S-Hawk, but he now has Pirate Island in his possession. What Rox established, his son is trying to re-establish, recreate. And we know the world government is not a fan of having a pirate utopia with Pirate Island. I feel like Blackbeard should have a higher bounty. Adrian, you said, boo this man Blackbeard. Now, I'm seeing 2 people saying put Blackbeard at a clean 4 billion, because right now he's 3.996, but you want him to be at a cool 4 billion. Max, you want to drop Blackbeard to 2 bill? I can't do that. I can't do that. Tiberius, he said, isn't bounty based on threat technically? Yes, it is. Bounty is based on threat, which is why I feel like we have to increase it. So yeah, it seems like most people, there's a couple people that actually want to drop Blackbeard, but most people are kind of giving him the 4.5-ish range, which I feel like is fair. Break it in the middle here, because I'm seeing some people are saying, you know, 4.8, 4.6, and then some people are kind of saying 4.2, 4.3, somewhere around there. So let's just call it even, and we'll give Blackbeard 4.5 billion berries. Based off of all the responses, we can meet in the middle, average it out at 4.5 billion berries. And again, I feel like that's fair. I personally still feel like we need to see a little bit more physical feats from Blackbeard, especially on the hockey side. I wasn't the greatest fan of his portrayal in the fight against Law, considering Law didn't have a lot of assistance. But with that being said, I still feel like Blackbeard is formidable as an evil mind. Like, he's very, very committed on finessing the world. You got to understand, Katarina Devon literally just copied Saint Saturn's Devil Fruit ability. When I'm telling you Blackbeard is very methodical, it's going to be dangerous in the end game of the series. And obviously everybody has been speculating that for years, but now we have people making theories that Blackbeard is going to steal Emu's Devil Fruit. Like, that's how much faith people have in Blackbeard's ability to finesse the world. So I feel like putting him around 4.5 is pretty valid. Here's what I'll say. We'll call Blackbeard at 4.5 billion berries, call it even, and let's move on to one of my favorite ones yet. You guys see the name, y'all. Dracul Mihawk. He's sitting at 3.6 if we round up, 3.6 billion berry. Now, let me say this, because I already know you guys know how I feel about Mihawk and the title and all this stuff. I don't really need to get into all of that. But what I really want to talk about is when Buggy said he wanted to go find the One Piece, Mihawk didn't have a happy look on his face. For me, Mihawk, you can say he's the world's strongest swordsman, and I'm cool with that. If you even want to say, I know people have been trying to make connections between Emu and Mihawk because of their, they have similar pupils and their eyes and all this stuff. I'm like, listen, I'm cool with all the fan theories, whatever. My thing is Mihawk's motivation, his resolve. If I'm a member of the world government, once they got rid of the warlord system, they raised the bounty based off of his strength. Like, if Mihawk were to pull up on us, this is what it will be. Because remember, they literally sent, at least it was in the anime, they sent a buster call to Mihawk once the warlord system was abolished. But I don't see Mihawk as somebody that is going to find ways to try to overthrow the world government. Right now, he's being thrown in a situation where he does not want to be in. He does not want to go for the One Piece. He does not want to fight against other pirates or marines or anything like that. He does not want to do it. But by proxy, by association, he is guilty because he's in the Cross Guild. And what is the Cross Guild's biggest thing? That's them putting bounties on the Marines' heads. So for me looking at this, Mihawk motivation wise, I'm cool with where his bounty is at. I know people want to say, oh, Mihawk's stronger than Shanks, whatever. I still feel like he should have a lower bounty than Shanks by his motivations alone. But if you look at the fact that him being associated with the Cross Guild means that the Marines have to potentially look at Mihawk as a threat. If I'm Fujitora and I'm sailing the seas or something, I gotta think, oh, Mihawk might try to hunt me down. And his prior epithet was the Marine Hunter. I feel like we might have to raise Mihawk's bounty. We really might have to raise Mihawk's bounty. Rob has Mihawk's bias for real? I don't have Mihawk bias. I'm calling it what it is. I feel like it should still be lower than Shanks, but we have to increase it. And I'm seeing a lot of you guys are saying 4 billion. 4 billion to me, I think is fair. Math, you want him at 5 billion? Akeno, you want Mihawk at 5 billion? I cannot do that. Himothy, you said 2.2 is enough. I also cannot do. Y'all want, first off, 5 billion. You got to understand, Whitebeard was at 5 billion. How can you put Mihawk on the same threat level as Whitebeard in good faith? That to me is crazy. M. You said 3.5 billion, so you want him to stay right where he is. Reeves, you're saying 2.5. Okay, let me understand this, because I could understand people saying keep Mihawk where he is or raise him. In my opinion, I feel like we should raise him. I wouldn't want to put Mihawk on the same level as Shanks. I don't think he's near there. But I still feel like we should raise his bounty. Now, you guys are saying to drop him. Again, I feel like it's tough to say that when he's in the Cross Guild. If he left the Cross Guild, I'm with you, because he doesn't have to worry about anything. Once you leave the Cross Guild, it's like, why should the Marines even be worried about you? But remember, I should say Mihawk's previous epithet was the Marine Hunter. Before he was the world's strongest swordsman, he was the Marine Hunter. He used to hunt them for fun. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, how can we, it's tough for me to be like, Leo, let's drop Mihawk. You know what I mean? But I will run the poll. I'm gonna say we either keep Mihawk where he is, we bring him to 4 billion, or we drop him to, let's say 2.5. Because I saw a lot of people saying 2. So we'll go like 2.5. Darth, you said 3.2. All right, I'll add a 3 in there. I'll add a 3 billion in there as well. And these are kind of just like estimated ranges, so because I can't do every number ever invented, right? So here we go. Let's run the poll. But in my opinion, I feel like we have to raise Mihawk based on all those factors I kind of just listed out. Stop all that Shanks biasness. What you mean? I'm a Shanks fan and I'm saying we should raise Mihawk. If anything, y'all Mihawk fans, y'all should be happy. This is Christmas for y'all. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll, and 63% of you guys said to raise Mihawk's bounty to 4 billion berries. Listen, I agree. I'm not a Mihawk stan by any means, but that is what it is. All right, next up, we have Captain Buggy. Now for Captain Buggy, he's sitting at 3.2 billion berries. Because he's the figurehead of the Cross Guild, I personally would want to raise him. But I feel like outside of the Cross Guild and their mission to put bounties on the Marines' heads, the only other thing that he has going for him is, well, he has two things. He escaped Impel Down, which is a huge offense to the world government. You breaking out of Impel Down, that's massive. And, you know, having the inmates literally join your crew. But outside of that, it's the, you know, him supplying the pirates with weapons. And I feel like that's even bigger than him being a former member of the Roger Pirates. Like, I feel like you supplying pirates around the One Piece world with weapons is crazy. Now, you can credit some of that to Crocodile and whatever, but Buggy is the figurehead. If you're a Marine or if you're a Holy Knight, the information that you're receiving is that Buggy is creating this massive faction directly to counter me. So now you have to look, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's reality. You have to look at the Cross Guild in a similar light to what the Revolutionary Army is doing. And you have to look at it and say, hey, the Revolutionary Army, as powerful as they are, there is another faction that we have to worry about. So in my opinion, I feel like we have to increase Buggy's bounty. I know he does not have the power. I know he doesn't have anything crazy, but he has the prestige and he has the hype and the cachet behind his name. If I'm a member of the Marines and I'm looking at the Cross Guild, Buggy's bounty has to be probably around 4.5 billion, 4.6 billion berries. To me, this bounty is too low for Buggy. Reaps, you said based off strength, 500 million max. And I'm with you on the strength, Reaps, but bounty is more than just strength, right? There's a lot more factors going into this. Reaps, you said more than Mihawk. I absolutely do think Buggy's bounty needs to be higher than Mihawk, because again, remember what I'm saying. Buggy he's spearheading a faction that is really, it's relative to what the Revolutionary Army is doing. The Revolutionary Army is countering the world government and the Marines, and that's why Dragon is the world's most wanted man. When you look at the Cross Guild, that's exactly what they're doing. They're supplying pirates with weapons, right? And they are countering the Marines and the world government directly by incentivizing pirates to go after them and literally take them out, dead or alive. They're paying pirates to fight the Marines. That is a direct counter. If I'm a member of the Marines, I'm looking at Buggy and I'm saying, yo, we need anybody, go get him right now. He put like 5 crowns on Akainu's head, which we will get to, but that's why I feel like Buggy has to be way up there. That's me personally. Now, let me see what you guys are saying. The game needed me, you're saying what? 4? Luffy, you're saying nah, you disagree. Marco, you're saying more than Shanks. Stop it, Marco. Stop it. Mex, you're saying based off strength, he's 5 billion because he got that plot armor. Yo, I can't. Reeves, you're saying, yeah, but Mihawk could destroy most of the Marines army by power, and I think that also plays into his bounty. But I think, Reeves, I think they factored that in, that Mihawk's power is ridiculous, because again, Mihawk used to hunt them. So the Marines have history on Mihawk already. It's not like they've never seen Mihawk's power. He displayed his power at Marineford. He used to hunt the Marines, so they know how powerful he is. All right, so some of you guys are saying 4 billion for Buggy. I will say, so far, based on what everybody's kind of saying, I feel like we average it out around 4 billion. Now, me personally, I said 4.5, but I'm cool with 4 billion with us averaging it out. All right, next up, Monkey D. Luffy. Monkey D. Luffy, he's sitting at 3 billion berries. Now, if it is up to me, Luffy was one of the reasons why Emu left. He left the Holy Land, came down to Elbath, right? Going against his entire command. Every member of the 5 elders were imploring Emu to stay, and Emu said, no, I gotta go. Nika is outside and Needhog is outside. So he's talking about Luffy, he's talking about Loki. That alone, that's gotta be in the 5s. Off rip. So a lot of you guys are saying 6 billion. I'm seeing 6 billion the most. And Luffy, you said, Rob, but the hockey ain't nowhere near a Shanks. And I agree that I think Shanks is still a stronger hockey user than Luffy. But this is the first time that Emu ever left the Holy Land and transformed. And that's for Luffy and that's for Loki. To me, that is an upscale of epic proportions. That's like, that's literally, he didn't leave. Listen, when Roger and Rox and whoever were in God Valley, Emu possessed Saturn through his other form, you know, his silhouetted like black form, but Imu did not go there personally himself and transform, not even for rocks. Not even for rocks. So the fact that it happened for Luffy and Loki, I feel like we have to bump Luffy up. Now for me, I would probably put Luffy around 5 billion. I'm seeing a lot of you guys say 6 billion though. 6 billion for me is kind of a little bit of a stretch, just because I don't know if Luffy has the haki necessary to really combat against Imu or even the Gorosei right now, because leaving Egghead, we have to remember the Gorosei had an opportunity to fight against Luffy, and what they learned from that fight against Luffy is that his devil fruit is obviously, you know, Sun God Nika's devil fruit, but he doesn't have the haki to hurt us, right? Warkri left there not being hurt by Luffy at all. So I don't think, even if Luffy fights against Imu, I don't think he's gonna be seriously damaging Imu either. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I still feel like because of his devil fruit and the will of D, right? The will of D also matters a lot. That's why Cobra literally entrusted Sabo to inform Luffy and Vivi about the truth of the will of D. So he has that going for him, but he also has the Joy Boy element, right? Joy Boy's will kind of being passed down and living inside of Luffy, or living through Luffy, which is why I feel like I would put him at 5 billion. But most of you guys are saying 6. So let's give Luffy 6 billion berries. I'm not mad at it. I personally would give him 5, but at least we agree that Luffy's bounty should be significantly increased. Next up, we have Law sitting at 3 billion berries. And I think this is well deserved. He was able to really push Big Mom out of Onigashima alongside Kid. But in that fight, I feel like Law contributed a lot more to the battle than Kid did. But Kid was still formidable in that fight. But, you know, there's that going for him. Former warlord as well, which if you're a member of the Marines or the world government, you have to look at that and give Law his credit there. But I see most of you guys are saying to have Law stay. There's a couple people that want to increase Law to like a 3.5 I'm seeing. But some of you guys also want to drop him to a 2.5. I'm seeing most people say for Law to stay, which in my opinion, I think it's fair. I think 3 billion is a really good spot for Law, considering his crew isn't really that formidable. If I'm the Marines, I'm looking at Law saying you're ridiculous, but Law's biggest threat is the fact that he has, you know, that eternal youth, like the immortality surgery, but Law would have to pass away before he does, you know, before he grants that power to somebody. So that's like the only thing, if I'm a member of the Marines, that's the only thing I would be worried about, is that eternal youth surgery thing. But like, other than that, like, even though he's powerful, I still feel like he needs a bit more of a haki upscale, and we need to see where he ends up, because Blackbeard pretty much decimated his entire crew. So I think we should probably keep Law at 3 billion. So keeping Law at 3 billion, it sounds good. Captain Kid sitting at 3 billion berries. Again, we just talked about how Law was able to have Big Mom on the ropes. He couldn't do that without Kid. He couldn't do it without Kid. But realistically, we don't know if Kid is around right now. We don't know if Kid is alive. Shanks packed him up. He doesn't have a crew left, really. His crew got wiped out for the most part. And on top of that, even though he's a Conqueror's Haki user, we didn't get to see great usage of it. I'm of the opinion to move Captain Kid's bounty a little bit down. Some of you guys are saying 2 billion. Eagles, you said 1 billion. Darth, you said 1 billion. Now, I will say 1 billion is a little disrespectful. If it's my opinion, I would give him a 2.5. But most of you guys are saying 2 to 1 billion. We can bring Captain Kid down to 2. 2 is cool. 3 to me was a little too high when it was revealed. I was like, I love Kid, but he's not, you know. Yeah, 3 billion was kind of tough. All right, Luffy said, all right, 2.5. All right, so it looks like you guys are kind of coming around to what I'm saying about 2.5. Yeah, I think 2.5 billion berries is solid for Kid. Let's give him the 2.5, because he still had the, you know, the rail gun that pushed out Big Mom. He still made Shanks a little bit worried, you know, so there's that going for him. But yeah, the way he went out was not great. And looking at it now, if you're the Marines, you're like, I don't even know if Kid's alive. Like, why would he be a massive threat to me? And even if he is alive, like, is his power really 3 billion berries worthy? Laws is, or even higher. Kid hovering around there. All right, now we're gonna look at some of the marine bounties. So remember, initially we were looking at pirate bounties and we were using the Marine and the world government perspectives to scale them effectively. Now we have to look at it in reverse. Think about the Cross Guild. Look at Buggy's perspective, look at Crocodile's perspective, and look at Mihawk's perspective, because those are obviously the standouts and the commanders, right? We have Monkey D. Garp sitting at 3 crowns. Now, if you guys don't remember, the Cross Guild gives the Marines crowns, and each crown represents 1 billion berries. So right now they have Garp sitting at 3 billion berries. Now for me, I feel like the Cross Guild is bugging. If I'm a pirate and I'm looking at bounty posters on the wall for the Marine, and they say, oh, we need you to get the hero of the Marines, the guy that was comparable to Roger, the guy that boxed rocks, we only want him for 3 billion. I'm gonna look at them and say, you're crazy. The level of hockey that Garp has access to, we saw the Galaxy Impact, we saw all of that just coming off of what happened on Pirate Island alone. You should look at this bounty and say, are you crazy? You want me to capture him? Now, a lot of you guys are saying 5 billion for Garp. I'm seeing a couple people say 4, but most of you guys are saying 5 billion. And I see some people saying that yes, he is old, and I understand that Garp is old 1000%, but we are not only talking about him being old, we're talking about his prestige. Capturing Garp hurts the Marines and the world government a lot more than capturing somebody else, because of the level of information he has access to, the level of cachet that he has, the level of respect that he commands. He's one of the Marines that does whatever he wants, and he had the ability to be a fleet admiral, but he purposely turned it down. This is who we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm seeing most of you guys are kind of giving him the 5 billion. Some people are saying 5.5. I think 5 billion is smooth. So I think 5 billion is fair. Green, you said, Rob, please, he's trash and old, max 3 billion. He barely beat Kid. Man, I'm assuming you meant Kuz on there, but even with that being said, you gotta respect it. Green, you said, but Rob, he has no crew. We don't know for sure. Assuming that Garp is a part of Sword, that technically would be his crew, which then, you know, X Drake and all these other people come into the mix. Now, next up, let's look at Kizaru. He's also sitting at 3 billion berries. Now, if it's me, I think this makes more sense. I personally feel like there should be some separation between Garp and Kizaru, in my opinion. If you want to raise Kizaru's bounty, I have to think, because I don't even know if you could really use the Egghead incident as a way to do it, because that's not really the story. That wasn't one of the headlines that left Egghead as much. Some of you guys are saying what, 3.5 to 4 billion for Kizaru. Nestor, you said dude gave Luffy a hard time even in Gear 5. So there's two things that happen, right? We have a confirmation that Kizaru gave Luffy food in Egghead, but then there's also confirmation that Luffy was not going all out in Egghead. Literally confirmed by animators working on One Piece. Like, they literally were like, yo, Luffy did not go all out in Egghead. But at the same time, Kizaru did also give Luffy food. So there's two things there. Now for me, if you guys want to raise Kizaru's bounty, I feel like it should be slightly raised, but I don't see, there's not like a specific moment where I'm like, oh, he was so critical against the pirates that we need to put him way up in the sky. Like Garp went to Pirate Island and fought against all the pirates and was blown up the island with pure hockey madness. Kizaru does not have a moment like that. If you want to point to Marineford and what happened with the Whitebeard pirates, maybe, but I haven't seen, you know, even the Egghead moment. To me, it would increase his bounty slightly. Let's see, some of you guys are saying 3.5 billion. Jordan, you're saying same. Annie, you're saying stay. Most of you guys are saying stay, so we're gonna have Kizaru stay. Let's move on to the next one. Fujitora is now 3 billion berries. The one moment I guess we could point to is Dressrosa, which was Fujitora's introduction. I think that was massive, but I don't believe that Fujitora has any type of big moments against pirates outside of that. You know, the next time we hear about Fujitora is his battle against the Revolutionary Army, which, I mean, if you're a pirate, you could look at that and see that, oh, okay, they fought against the Revs in the Holy Land, but I don't think that's anything else, you know? Now, do I think Fujitora is more powerful than the Cross Guild is giving him credit for? I do. I think Fujitora is more powerful than 3 billion berries. But if I'm Buggy, if I'm Crocodile, if I'm Mihawk, based off the information that is being given about Fujitora in the newspapers and everything, this bounty to me seems fair. A lot of you guys are saying stay, and I agree with that. Here we go. Admiral Aramaki at 3 billion berries. Now, if it's me and I hear what happened on Wano from Shanks and the fact that he defeated a half-dead queen, half-dead king, if it's me, I'm being so disrespectful. The fact, and this is one of the craziest things, right? Because a lot of people kind of look at it and say, oh, he ran away from Shanks. That wasn't even the most egregious thing. Not even the fact that they lost in the Holy Land, because I understand that Fujitora couldn't drop meteors because celestial dragons are running around, and Ryukugyu was also compromised because there's celestial dragons around. He could not go all out. But the fact that you had Momonosuke landing hits on you is crazy. Literally, and Lucian, you just said it. He was boxing Yamato and Momonosuke, and then why can't he be as strong or stronger than Law? But I feel like the fact that he had Momonosuke, understand, he just grew up like that day. You know what I'm saying? He just grew up that day, barely even knew how to understand. He didn't even have a full understanding of his devil fruit. And on one of the first days he grows up, he's boxing admirals? That does not sound right. At least it's different for Sabo, because even though Sabo got his devil fruit on the first day, he grew up training and hockey and all this stuff. Momonosuke was a kid. He was a kid and was like, yo, Yamato, stand back a little bit. Let me practice against Admiral Aramaki. Let me try to get some hits in. Let me learn how to defend Wano. And the fact that that even worked is crazy to me. Had that been Kizaru, had that have been Fujitora, I don't think it goes down that way. Respectfully, I don't think it goes down that way. Now, a lot of you guys are saying 1 or 2 billion. So I think the best thing to do is to average it out and do 1.5 billion berries. I think that's fair. We got to average it out. Okay. I think that's fair. Okay. So I know we didn't get to do 20, but we were able to do 15. So that's still good. The remaining ones were King, Boa Hancock, Dory, Brogy, and Crocodile. We didn't get to do everything or everybody, but you know, it is what it is. All right, see you guys soon. Love you guys.